Tupac's greatest hits. Speaking of changes, I want to change this game like I'm losing in Madden 30-6. Like that, y'all. Some people, they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them say they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't.
What is up, Spokecast listeners? Before we dive into today's episodes, I want to tell you about an exciting project that's very special to me. It's the Real Rat 2.0 Seed and Spark campaign. There's only 5 days left. Maybe there's only even 4 days now to be a part of supporting local filmmakers and celebrating basketball culture in Spokane, Washington. Last year, my friend, Spokecast podcaster and local filmmaker Luke Haristo unveiled his debut pilot episode of The Real Rat. And now he's back with an even bigger vision, Real Rat 2.0. This version of Real Rat aims to create a genuine, relatable basketball series based here in Spokane, Hooptown, USA. And the story is still the same. It's all following Funky, aka Frank. He's an aging athlete navigating life and basketball, and it's packed with local flavor and basketball passion. This time, Luke and the Real Rat team are crowdfunding to produce a remastered, expanded pilot episode, and they need your help to reach $20,000 on Seed and Spark. By contributing, you're supporting local talent and helping bring this authentic sports dramedy to life. Plus, there's some awesome rewards for all the backers. So head over to seedandspark.com/fund/realrat or find the link in our show description. Let's support local filmmakers and help celebrate Spokane's basketball culture together. That's not all, though, guys. I got another announcement to make. If you didn't hear on the last episode, Spokecast is not the only podcast that I make. I'm also one half of your favorite 90s duo. It's the Super 90s Brothers podcast. I've been doing this with my friend Adam Pitzler since 2017, and I've got some exciting news to share. Adam and I are taking our fanny packs and heading straight over to the Lilac City Comic-Con at the Spokane Convention Center, where we will again be podcasting live. This time, we're going to be podcasting live on the main stage on June 2nd. And on this version of the live show, we're going to be covering the 1989 classic, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. But wait, there is more. It gets even better. We will be doing it with none other than Amy O'Neill herself, Amy Zielinski from the movie, the sister. And she's going to be with us, joining us to talk all about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. She's going to give us her own insight and join us for, a special nostalgia trip back to 1989's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So go get your tickets at Lilac City Comic-Con, and I hope to see you there. Now, let's get into the show. What is up, Lilac City, and welcome back to Spokecast. Today on the podcast is Jonathan Wisor and Jed Wagner. They are the dynamic duo behind the eclectic music group that's redefining how we think of music groups. On this episode, we're going to hear the compelling story of Prismatica, its genesis, how it was born from Jonathan's rediscovered passion for music after a 2-decade hiatus, and Jed's extensive experience in music composition and production. We're going to learn all about how they blend their unique styles of folk, pop, electronic dance, and other music, and how that creates a fresh and innovative sound that's captivating people over our city. We're going to discover the transformative power of music as Jonathan and Jed share their journey from song circles to making music in the studio, and how they use their art to build community and foster healing. And how they use their art to build community and foster healing. Plus, we're going to get a sneak peek of some of their events that they're going to be doing, new music releases, and actually this Saturday, June 1st, you're going to have an opportunity to join them for a very magical evening at the Hamilton studio. Prismatica, Jonathan and Jed's band, will be performing a set of live acoustic oriented folk pop originals, followed by a cacao ceremony and also an electronic ecstatic dance set, which will also be including some of Prismatic originals. It's going to be a very unique experience. You should go check it out. Doors are up at 6. The acoustic set begins at 6:30. Followed by the cacao ceremony, and the dance set begins around 7:30 and 8. Visit the link in this episode description to get your tickets today. Well, before we get into the show, I got to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters, and they are Jonathan Wisor, guest on today's podcast, Luis Garcia, Nathan O'Brien, Pia Hollenberg, Gina Campbell, Enrique de la Novelle, Joe Williamson, Joe Van Voorhis, Elizabeth Geyer, Abby Pointer, Amanda Kerr, Tyler Poole, Judy Pointer, Amber Sparks, Luke Baumgarten, Valerie Ozier, Nick Spanger, and Elizabeth and Bill Pointer. Thank you all again so much for being Patreon supporters. If you want to become a Spokecast Tonight and support what I'm doing here, visit patreon.com/Spokecast. Well, I will not keep you any longer. Here is Jonathan Wisor and Jed Wagner of Prismatica. Well, I will not keep you any longer. Here is Jonathan Wisor and Jed Wagner of Prismatica. This is Spokecast. What is up, everyone? Before you sit down and listen to this episode, I need to apologize. The audio on my side was not as best as it could have been. Something happened with my board, and my levels for myself were just off the charts, and it sounded like I was yelling when I was very much talking. It's very much why I have an intern now helping me do Spokecast, Dom RC. He's helping me record, so that I have someone behind the booth to help with audio and make sure everything is recorded correctly. This is one instance where something was just off with the audio. I had to use a different version, and I could not get the best audio possible, and I wanted to make sure it didn't kill your ears when you listen to it. So I kind of had to edit it so it sounds a little bit a little bit tinny, but it's still a great episode. So please enjoy my conversation with Jonathan Wisor and Jed Wagner of Prismatica. Well, on my podcast, I start with a little intro, a 5-minute intro, kind of introducing what you're doing. So they already know who I'm talking to, what we're talking about.
Okay.
But I'm here with Jonathan Wisor and Jed Wagner. Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself so everyone knows your voice?
I am Jonathan Wisor. Hi.
And Jed, introduce yourself.
Jed Wagner here.
Awesome. And you make up and this is where I need to check my notes, but this is you're a part of Prismatica.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a duo, or is it what makes up Prismatica? Is it just you two, right?
No, it's a quartet.
Oh, quartet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Quadro. And they couldn't make it today? Or did you not want to? I could have everyone here.
Well, so now historically we were the start of the, and we're really okay. So the way I put it is we were there for the conception.
Gotcha. And
we have added our dear friends and very important contributors, Paul Altenay on percussion, and Emily Embleby Phelps, who does violin, occasional keyboard, and vocals.
Yeah.
And then just to complete the loop here, Jed does, well, you tell him what you do.
We have three songs of mine, and then the rest are Jonathan's so far in our set lists that we go out with. And then I do production, video, music production.
Okay. Producing, mixing, mastering.
Yeah. We'll probably get into the more deeper story here.
But for the live show, he does electric piano, synth, and vocals, and then I do guitar and vocals. Yeah,
awesome.
And so that's the group, the four of us, But Jed and I are here, I guess, representing more the creative process behind it all.
Yeah.
So
before we get into all of what Prismatica is, what is your relation to Spokane? Were you born and raised here? Did you move here? How did you get here to Spokane? Jonathan, why don't you start?
So I moved here in 2008. I had been all over the place for my career. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, spent some time in Chicago, in LA, in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
Moved here in 2008. Moved here in the infamous month of December 2008 from the San Francisco Bay Area, where it never ever snows. And I had some experience with snow growing up in Philadelphia, but not 64 inches in the space of like 3 weeks. And it was like, well, welcome to Spokane.
That's funny. I posted something a couple months ago, and someone said, I hate Spokane. The one time I was there was in 2008, and it snowed like a foot or two. Whatever how much
foot?
we.
That
was
six.
A ton of. I remember me and my wife we were living in Audubon, and we couldn't even get out of our neighborhood. Like we lived like 2 blocks from Wellesley, and like that snow just like it just. And being coming from the Bay Area, I can imagine like that was a sight to see. But I think the snow probably went away pretty quickly, like it always does here in Spokane, right?
No, it didn't that year. No, I remember I have pictures from April where there was still a pile of snow that had accumulated beside my driveway. Wow. It was there in April.
We need a winter like that again, though, because we need more and more this moisture just to be on our ground.
Yeah.
So what you moved here for your work, and like and you stayed here the whole and now retired, and now you're going to stay here for the foreseeable future?
I wish I was retired. No, I'm still. Oh gosh, no! I hope my employer doesn't listen to this.
Okay.
No, so I since 2008 I have worked at Washington State University, Spokane, right down the street here with the medical school.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I continue to work there.
You continue to work. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, someday you'll retire, right?
Someday,
and you'll stay in Spokane, right?
I will tell you, having been in all those other places and grown up on the East Coast and been, on the West Coast and in between in Chicago, when I came to Spokane, not that first month or two, it was a rough adjustment, but I learned to love snow, and I'm a deep enthusiast for winter sports, and so I feel like I've died and gone to heaven sometimes.
Awesome, that's great.
Between the skiing in the winter and like the canoeing and fly fishing and kayaking in the summer, I just love Spokane.
Near nature, near perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I should ask, like, I love asking this, when you were moving here, like, obviously it was a job opportunity, but like you have a choice to move here. Like, what was your coming here and visiting? Like, what was that experience like?
Coming and visiting, it was 2008. I was a little underwhelmed by the culture, but that wasn't the deciding factor. I mean, ultimately, this was the right career move for me. Was why I did it. Yeah. And it took a couple of years to make the connections and find the culture that I was looking for, and also to really embrace, again, like the winter sports, and to discover everything that's going on in the outdoors around here. Yeah. But my first reaction was that, it's kind of the culture is not screamingly obvious, or was not in 2008. I think it's continuing to evolve, and things have changed dramatically since I've gotten here, of course. Mm-hmm. So
what place did you visit first?
I stayed in the Davenport, and so I was just checking out the downtown area. So I went to Wild Sage. That was one thing that really made me enthusiastic. Actually, went to Wild Sage, had a delicious meal at Wild Sage, and it's still one of my favorite places.
Yeah, imagine Chef Alexis was probably there when she's someone I've worked with a couple of times, but she was one of the original chefs at Wild Sage. And I feel like that little area in downtown Spokane was very much like, because Wild Sage was there, and then there was Scratch, and there was like this Ellis Supper Club, but like there wasn't a ton bustling downtown yet. Like it was growing, but there's stuff happening downtown. Like we had the River Park Square, obviously had been there for a number of years already, but yeah, like it definitely was just in the beginning of like kind of the regrowth. Mm-hmm. But a good time to see it grow, like to be able to appreciate that. Yeah. Jed, how about you? What's your relation to Spokane? Were you born and raised here, or did you move here?
Yeah, I am born in Portland, Oregon, but I've been going back and forth from Spokane and Portland all my life. Like high school, for example, I was a year and a half up here at a boarding academy out near where I live out in Spangle, and 2 years and a half in Portland. So it was just kind of like that, like 5 years, 10 years in Portland, 5 years, 10 years up here. But I've been here for 15 plus years.
Okay.
Coming back from Portland.
What's your early Spokane memory?
Oh, well, hearing about that snow just On the 2008, I'll comment on that. I mean, that isn't my earliest memory, but related to that, I remember I grew up out in Medical Lake, and we'd come into town, and I remember jumping off the banks during the snow time when they would drift down in those country roads, just like jumping off and getting into drifts or whatever. And I was living in Brown's Addition in 2008, and I was like, that's when I had my great idea. So if that happens again, this great idea probably isn't worth mentioning over radio, but whatever. I was like, if you're ever gonna rob a bank with a snowmobile, this would be the time.
It's like whatever.
Make the national news at least.
It's so easy.
You might go to jail, but you make the national news.
I was walking around and I was like, there's these little channels for the cars to go, and I'm like, oh, it'd be so easy.
It'd be so easy. It's like that.
So that was a memory for me too.
Yeah. I forget what movie that is. There's a movie where like the town floods, and then when the town floods, they do a bank robbery when the town is flooded. So it's a similar story.
Yeah.
You could, I mean, that's a perfect crime, right?
But yeah, for kind of going off what Jonathan's saying about the downtown thing, it just coming back here from Portland, it was like, wow, like there's so many it's just endless outdoor, like new areas to discover with different climates or whatever. And then, with the redoing of Riverfront, I don't know, I've just seen a lot of different iterations of Spokane.
Yeah, no, of my friends who have been in Portland and Spokane, they always like draw the similarities there of like, the being close to outdoors, but also having like the city vibe. And there is like Portland has, I forget what there is, it keeps Portland weird or
right.
But like there's they're keep Spokane gross, something like that. I think someone has like a phrase like that, and
grimy or something.
But there's definitely like a similarity there, and somewhat similar culture. I think it's we are a little bit different here in Spokane, obviously, but I love going to Portland. It's one of my favorite places to visit for like like culinary reasons, and just the culture and a lot of beer, a lot of good beer in Portland, a lot of good beer in Spokane too. I like that.
Totally.
And it's an easy drive if you like driving through the central Washington and see a bunch of desert.
Right.
Once you get into like Oregon, it gets a little bit better.
Yeah, and the climate here is a little more conducive to just having more sunny days and just such oddball weather. And so I work up at Manitou as well, and just get used to watching the weather a lot, and it's like never a dull moment with the weather.
Never a dull moment.
And then of course people coming in there, oh, I didn't know this was here, I didn't know this existed. And that's the thing about Spokane, if you just are driving through, you'll miss so much.
You will, yeah.
And versus Portland, you're like driving down there, and like you're probably stuck in traffic, but it'll be all these epic buildings or whatever.
Yeah.
But Spokane, you kind of have to work your way around different pockets and just be surprised. I mean, there's just so many surprising things.
Yeah, I mean,
every year I'm finding something new. That's like, whoa, I didn't know this was here.
We're very lucky with the Parks Department here. Like the way this early city planners were, designing Spokane to have Olmsted Brothers come here and like be able to put in all like Audubon and the Arboretum, Manitou. Like there's just so much like history here too that people just don't realize, like that our park systems are very like thought out. And I mean, we are very, there's like some score. I don't know what the score is exactly, but like there's like a proximity to parks, and like you want to be like a 5 minute or 10 minute walk to a park, and we have like a really good rating for being able to walk to parks in Spokane. Yeah. So, which is a great segue to playing our Spokecast Hot List game, which is I'm going to say a word, and then you're going to say the first word that comes to your mind as it relates to Spokane. And I always start with a really easy first question, and that is park.
Are we supposed to both jump in? Like,
we'll have you start, Jonathan, and then you go next, Jed.
Okay, I can't limit it to one word because when I lived on the South Hill, I did something I called the 6-park loop. My exercise was to do this walk through 6 parks, and I called it the 6-park loop because I would go through, let's see, Cowley, Edwidge Woldson, Cliff, Cannon Hill, Manitou, and what's the one I'm forgetting?
Wow, man. Cliff. Oh man,
I'm so embarrassed.
What street's it on? Do you know?
Cowley. I swear there were 6 parks. And
is that a parkette? Is it?
Maybe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
no,
I think
I
I
know
got
that.
5.
I know all of those like up in Rockwood. I mean, I didn't even know about this until like maybe like it was during COVID when I learned that or Rockwood and that area had all of those parklets in the middle of houses, and people don't realize that those are maintained by the Parks and Rec department as well. So yeah, no.
I'll tell you what. If I just shout out the name of a park later in the podcast, you'll know the context for it.
Perfect.
That's that missing 6th park.
Yes.
Okay, sorry,
Jed. How about you?
Well, I was going to say Liberty, but you said Edwidge Wilson, and this working up at Manitou, this place never gets too much traffic because people don't know about it. You know Moore Turner Heritage Gardens?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know it. No,
there's another. Yeah, it's this epic. Okay, so the Moore Turners were this giant mansion right next to Corbin Art Center.
Okay, yeah,
and it got torn down after the Depression.
Okay,
and behind there was this epic garden. And Spokane Parks Department helped restoration. There was a little long story to that. I won't get into that, but it's right above Edwidge Wilson Park, on 7th and Stevens, and I worked there for a couple years.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's like this black gate around it, and all the houses are above there. So
and then I'm thinking if you go up the stairs,
the Tiger
Trail, and then you make a left, that's actually considered a separate park. That's Pioneer Park, and so that's Park 6.
Okay,
we got it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cowley, Edwidge Wilson, Pioneer, Cliff, Cannon Hill, Manitou. That's the 6-park loop.
Yeah, and that Moore Turner Gardens is in between the Pioneer and the.
That's right.
You could have made it a 7-park loop.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I did occasionally touch the fence on the way up, so there you go. It's 7 parks. Yeah.
I used to live on like 8th and Monroe, and so 12th and Monroe, and I used to. I didn't do enough walking back then. I was like young and I was like driving everywhere, but like there was a ton. There's just so much up in those areas that you just don't know about. Next question, or next word, coffee.
Zola.
Rockwood.
Yeah.
Bakery. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. Brewery.
Black Label. Because they had an open mic there until not too long ago.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that's closed, but I had been going there for open mic.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Bring it back!
The funny thing about these 2 questions is I don't drink coffee and I don't drink. I'm drawing blanks. I was drawing blanks on both of them. Gosh, isn't there a brewery in Benedito's?
Benedito's.
Yeah.
You mean
Benedito's Pizza?
Yeah, they have the
one
the brew pub down on
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that one. I've gone in. Yeah.
Perfect. Brunch.
Rockwood Bakery.
Ooh.
Nice place in the South Hill.
Yeah.
The Brunchelin or Brunchette or something. I went there. Brunchinette.
Yeah. That's a good one. Right on
there recently.
Over by the courthouse.
Yeah.
Sweet treats, or I say sweet treats, but it can be like it could be donuts as well. I should just say donuts. I love donuts.
Hello Sugar has popped into my head.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Rocket Bakery.
They have donuts?
No, I'm not thinking donuts.
Sweet treats.
Just sweet, of course. Yeah. Just the more generic sweet stuff.
No, I love that. We go get. They have a really good cinnamon roll.
Yeah.
Neighborhood.
Brown's Edition.
The Rockwoods.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
I know. I just know. I used to live there.
The first word that pops in your head.
There.
It kind of gives you like an idea of like where you're from. Like it's kind of why I do this. This will and everyone who's from somewhere different always like comes with like a place that maybe I've never heard of. Artist. You can be visual or musical.
Amy Felt, FLDT. She is a good friend of ours. She records with Jed. She has a really interesting sort of like South Asian influenced style of singing and music. And she works with singing bowls, and she does some visual arts as well. Yeah. So that's awesome. Who I'm thinking of.
Good idea. I'm going to say my buddy Jake Robin in Sandpoint, incredible singer-songwriter as well, like Jonathan. So that's good. Plug your friends.
You plug your friends. Yeah. That's why I put this here. Pizza.
Benedito's. Having grown up on the East Coast, I don't miss a lot about the East Coast. I miss my family, but otherwise I don't miss a lot. The one thing I really do miss is East Coast pizza, because I found with most West Coast pizza, they always have to mess with it. Yeah. Good pizza is just like you get the right dough, you get the right crust, you get the right sauce, and you get the right cheese, and that's all you need. Benedito's does East Coast pizza right.
They do it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perry Street pizza.
Yeah. They do a good. I mean, I guess it's kind of like Cracker Crust.
Them or Benedito's.
That's West Coast, so we'll just have to agree to disagree.
West Coast versus East Coast. Music venue.
The District Bar.
Oh, District Bar. Okay. Yeah. They have a lot of stuff going on. A lot of music coming through.
Fun little shows. Yeah. I mean, they're not little, but they're just not at the knitting. Yeah. So it's like a little more intimate. Yeah. And I've had a lot of fun there.
I haven't been to a show there yet. But I should have went to a show once there, but I didn't go.
Hoop Fest is what comes to mind.
Oh, yep. Coming up very soon. Event.
So the event, Bloomsday.
Happening in 3 days. It will be long past by the time this episode comes out. But
we're back to the music venue.
Are you doing Bloomsday?
Yes, my daughter's Cinco de Mayo birthday, and she's going with her friend she's turning 8.
She's turning 8, and you're letting her do it by yourself?
Well, we're walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids are 8. But I have twins, and they're 8, and they wanted to do Bloomsday. I'm like, I run Bloomsday, and I'm like, I can't be responsible for kids when we're running Bloomsday.
Right. They'll be walking for us.
And I should have just been a nice dad and walked with my kids, but I also don't want to walk for 2 hours. Or 2.5 hours. And then, what about you? Are you doing Bloomsday?
So, I'm doing Bloomsday,
nice.
I think. Not 100% sure, but I think I am.
Haven't signed up, or you have signed up?
I have not signed up yet.
So you can sign up until Saturday.
Yeah. So, but the music venue, I haven't.
Oh yeah, what's your music venue?
And of course, I'm going to plug June 1st. Hamilton Studio Listening Room is my favorite music venue. So we're there on June 1st.
Nice. Yeah.
Prismatica as a quartet.
That's a great segue to talk about Prismatica and what you're all about, and this music that you're making. Like, what started this conversation was about a month ago, we'll say. You reached out and said that, hey, I make music and you make podcasts, and I would love to like maybe get some of my original music on some of your podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah.
And actually, I would love to talk to you about a new podcast that I'm starting in a month.
Okay.
We can talk about after this.
All right.
But one of the things you said to me that really struck my interest was that you've come back to music after 20 years. Like I will say, like, in the nicest term, you're not a young man. But you're new to music in Spokane, and you're creating music for the first time in 20 years. Like, where did this renewed interest come from?
Yeah. So I was a budding singer-songwriter in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it never took off. I had just a little bit of commercial airplay, never made a dime from music, but just loved it. But because of kids and career, around 2003, 2004, I had to just stop. And I stopped like hard. Yeah. I'm not good at moderation. I was like, I am done with music. That phase of my life is over. I gave it a try. Yeah. Put down, didn't touch my musical instruments, and I sang like in the car, like Lizzo would come on and I'll be like, feeling good as hell, whatever. But I just sang to myself in the car or whatever. My kids never liked it when I sang to them, I don't know. It's just this thing. So I put it down completely. And starting in November of 2022, there were a series of like disruptions, losses, separations in my life. like life defining kinds of events, and like a series of them happened pretty quickly over a period of months. And by spring of 2023, I was really kind of at the end of my rope, and I knew I needed to build relationships to heal emotionally, spiritually through relationships with other people, and didn't really know where to go, and was just kind of like wandering and continuing to make my connections with people. In July, I found out through our friend Jonas Hawk about this song circle that gets together once a week, and I was like, well, I like to sing. I sing in the car after all, so got together with this song circle, and it's people from many different faith traditions, many different religious backgrounds, and it'll be anywhere from like 5 to 15 people, let's say, on a Friday evening. Just come together, sit in a circle, and everyone brings their songs, and we have like a songbook and sharing the songs. And so went a few weeks and just took to it immediately. The first couple of weeks, I just kind of listened and soaked it. I mean, none of the songs had I known before, but most of the melodies are pretty simple, because people know that we're just coming together. We don't practice or anything. We just come together and sing. So songs are very simple. Learn them over time, and just things like ma ma ma, stuff like this. And so you have 15 voices, and you're trying to fit in, and everybody's very supportive of each other. And if you mess up, it's okay. And so over time, my voice became more confident as I learned the songs better, and really, it helped a lot with my healing. And that went on for a few months, being involved in the song circle. And Jed was and still is, I would say, an occasional participant. Jed is not, I try to be there pretty much every Friday. Try really, really hard. And Jed is an occasional participant. That's how we've first got to know each other. But so that went on for 2 or 3 months, and I really, really took to that and was really feeling like a part of this, like just loving the resonance and the reverberation of 15 different voices, and thinking about where do I fit it. Sometimes I would fit in like solidly in the middle of the range. Sometimes I could like sneak in at the bottom and help me build out the lower part of my voice. And then in late September, and they're always asking, so it's part of their rituals kind of involved, like brief rituals. And one of the brief rituals is like, if anyone has something they want to share, a poem, just a thought, a meditation, a song that they want to share, why don't you share it? And I was like, so I came for whatever reason on some random Friday evening, I'm like, I'm going to share a song. And you know what the song was? It was The Lion Sleeps Tonight, or sometimes known as In the Jungle, right? I have no idea why I decided to share that, because it was very atypical. The songs, usually they have words that are spiritual or social cohesion oriented, but I was like, I'm going to sing this song. Well, a couple of weeks after that, in late September, one of the members of the group sent out a text. We organized by text, like, here's where we're going to be, here's the time we're going to get together, right? And so sent out a text like, I want to start a side group singing Disney songs for like disabled teens, so my first reaction was like, I'm too busy with other stuff, and I don't do Disney songs, because I didn't even know that was a Disney song. I thought of it as like a pop song from the 1950s that I heard on oldies radio when I was growing up. But in fact, it's from The Lion King. Somebody pointed that out.
Wasn't it another Joel?
No. That's not, I don't think Billy Joel. The Weavers did it in the 50s.
I'm thinking of In the Jungle. The River of Dreams.
Okay. But so anyway, lo and behold, it was in a Disney movie, The Lion King, right? And somebody sent a text back. Again, my reaction was, I don't do Disney songs. I don't know any Disney songs. And somebody texted, well, Jonathan can do that, the Lion Sleeps Tonight song. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm doing the Disney songs. And Jed got involved in that. And so that was September 25th was our first practice.
2023?
Yes, September 25th of 2023 was the first practice of the Disney singing group. And about a week later, October 1st, October 2nd, October 3rd, a song actuated itself into me. I don't know how else to put this, because I was just like minding my business. I was maybe driving somewhere or working in my garden. I don't know what. But this song was like, we are one now. There's no holding back the dawn. We are one now. We will live on. I'm like, whoa, what is that? Who wrote that?
Yeah.
Because in all my songwriting prior to that time, one thing that was always missing was the bliss factor, because I knew bliss from other people's music. I could listen to her sing like Let It Be by Paul McCartney or Constant Craving by Katie Lang. That's bliss. And I never had that in my own songwriting.
Yeah.
And this song came to me and I'm like, whoa, who wrote that? Where did that come from? And I accepted over time that to the extent that it was written by a person, it was me. Oh. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, I guess I better pick up my guitar again and figure out what chords, because I want to share that with the group.
Totally.
That's the song I need to share with the group. And I shared it with the group. It's in the songbook. We'll do it now and again among our songs. And I don't like push it to the group. If someone else brings it up, they want to sing it, great. If not,
what's the name of the song?
We Are One Now.
We Are One Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have it.
I don't see it on
no,
this
maybe
list.
you don't. Okay.
But I was like, had I listened to it? Well, that's really
And I was like, that's cool, right? And well, like a week later, another song actuated itself into me called "Peace Be With You," and then over the next several weeks, like, there's another song, and and it became like an obsession within like a month or two, and by the end of December, I had like 10 or 11 new songs, and I've written like 4 more since the end of December.
Wow.
So like 15 new songs that just happened to me, and it was just, I think it was being part of this group and think music as a shared thing, and recognizing music as a gift that is shared among people,
right.
And then joining the Disney group was what really finally opened up the portal. Like, he will use this music for good. He will use it for gratitude. Now here's the gift of music back to you after all these years, along with some bliss.
Yeah. So that's how this happened. Like the creative juices just started flowing. Like once like you started like exploring these different avenues of like being able to express yourself, essentially. That's amazing. Like, so I want to like, was music really big in your life when you were a kid? Like, you said you gave it up. Like, were you, when you were doing it when you were younger, was it as like you said, you had some sort of traction with it, right? Like, where did that start? It was just like through just being growing up?
I was a relatively late bloomer. I mean, I absolutely loved music. We had music playing all the time when I was growing up, but I was just as a listener. And I did like singing in high school musicals, didn't pick up any instruments, but until I was in graduate school, actually. So like when I was 22, 23, I was like, I needed, I needed to do something, again, sort of like therapeutic to deal with my stresses and everything. And I was like, well, I've always loved to sing, and people tell me my voice is pretty good, so why don't I pick up music? And so I learned keyboard, learned guitar. I don't think of myself as a musician. I should clarify that. And if you were to see me play live, anyone who knows music and who is a musician be like, yeah, he's not much in the musician category. But I've picked up enough that when I experience a song, I can figure out what's going on with the chords and turn it into a complete song. And it's just a lot of listening over the years, and just kind of listening to what's coming to me from the ether or wherever it's coming from, the astral void, I don't know. And turning it into sound.
Well, you shouldn't sell yourself short, because I feel like everyone, even if you aren't like, I mean, you're definitely a musician.
I'm good enough. I'm good enough that people will listen.
Well, Jed, like,
this guy's a musician. Talk to him. Talk to the musician here.
Everyone every good. I mean, every artist needs someone to work with. Like, I think it's like definitely I'm not a musician, but I work with musicians, and because I love music and I want to like help them get their music out, but like I can't help them make the music, but you always have someone that can help. And it seems like, Jed, you've helped Jonathan do that. But what are your beginnings? I mean, you've been making music for a long time, right?
Yeah, it's just an itch or I don't know. It's just, I guess since I was 12, I had a piano teacher, and I was going to private Christian type school, and the teachers generally would have us do hymns and stuff. And I was like boring block chords and everything. and I wasn't really, I had an older brother, and he was just way better. Like sight reading and the whole like what the computative power of like playing the piano.
Right.
So I wasn't really into it, but when I was 12, I got a teacher. He was a mechanic too, had big hands, and he could just rip on the piano. And he's like, dude, you don't, well, he didn't say dude, but he's like, you don't have to read all these notes. Let's take these hymns and let's write chords on the top of them.
Yeah.
And it just clicked. I was like,
oh, you just needed a tool.
And I teach some piano and unlock that for kids too, because it's like it's comparable to like reading every single letter on this terrain sticker,
right?
Instead of just saying terrain.
Yeah.
But that's how the piano is presented. It's like you're supposed to read every single note, and it's like, no, those are chords. So he got me under the hood, showing me the theory of like every time I see notes, I can see that that's an E minor, that's A major, and then went to college after that for music. I lived in Portland some of my high school, like I said before, and I got connected with Michael Allen Harrison. He's a big Portland New Age piano artist, and he was my mentor. And I went to PSU for a while, but had a pretty, and it's interesting, the artist's path can sometimes be wrought with major challenges.
Totally.
So I had a pretty severe chronic arthritic condition that wasn't able to walk very well in my 20s and stuff. And so I didn't quite finish my composition degree. And another thing is I just was like, atonal music, I don't really like it.
Right.
Once you get further along in the composition. So if I had to do it again, I would have done music education. But nonetheless, I got into rave and trance music, going out and, I was working cover charge and stuff in Portland. And, and that came in early 2000s, and I was like, everything I'm learning about music composition, like a concerto has a beginning, a middle, and it comes back to, and the thematic material. I'm like, the DJs are doing this, only they're mixing African beats in with it. And I'm like, this is where modern composition is.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of phased out of the traditional musical venue, and I just started learning how to make electronic, progressive trance music, basically the earlier iterations of that.
What's a good example of progressive trance?
Sasha, John Digweed. Sasha and Digweed were really big back in early 2000, but they're still out there doing big shows, but they've been a little more. There's a company called Global Underground that was really big back then. It's still big, and but that's in Portland, where it's a different scene.
Totally, yeah. I'm never around 2000s was like when I was getting into like learning a lot more about like hip hop and like that type style of music, and so like obviously like I'm thinking of like Chemical Brothers and so.
Oh, sure, and like that's totally that was going on then too, for sure. Yeah,
but yeah, no, and so like you started.
Oh yeah,
breaking
progressive,
into,
trance.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure Sasha has done a remix of Chemical Brothers. I mean, that's all. It's all from the same era.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then
Orbital.
And you were remixing songs, or you were making your own original music.
I had heard all the DJs, and I didn't want to spend all the money on records, so I had an old Packard Bell 385 megahertz computer, and I was like, I'm going to do this all MIDI.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you're doing MIDI before MIDI existed.
Well, it was kind of there, but
it wasn't digital yet. Like
there was no digital. Well, there was. You could get a Big Mac, but it would be like very small hard drive, and you could do audio, and you could the big studios had it, but when you're at a limited budget, I was like I had my little sound module, and I made a whole like 45-minute like thing just out of like that. Yeah. That all comes back around to this thing, because I kind of got lost in the rave scene, to be honest. And I was like, I gotta get out and change. And so I came back up here, and I was like 2005-06, I started working at Manitou. I hadn't started working there yet, but I was working on an album, because I'm like, okay, I'm finally like living in the country, like focusing, and it was called Violet Light. And I was driving out 195, and this vision is clear as day. I was missing my friends and the ecstasy and all that, but I'm like, but the fallout is so brutal. And I was like, I just want to have that experience again. And I had this vision of being inside of a prism, and bright as, and just everyone working with color and sound.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, that's incredible. But I was like, maybe it's just some post-drug induced vision. And I just kind of shrugged it off and went about my business and started working at Manitou and getting things going and getting back to music. And
so like music was always kind of like you were still like making music, but it was like,
yeah, I wasn't
like,
I was hoping back then in 2000 to put out that album of that long mix, but that I kind of like, yeah, went down the dark night of the soul experience, and that never happened.
Okay.
So by 2005, I moved up here, and I finally did my first album with Violet Light, and that's when the vision. And I mean, fast forward to this like, what is it, 15 years later, or so, I just started working on an album called Prism on my own and just having fun with it. And then started getting more involved socially in town, started going to the singing group. And, but before that, I also started working with some people coming out to my studio out in Spangle and just like, hey, like helping people. That first project, our friend Glenn was had a father that had written this really cool song at the vet center and wanted to get the song written for his dad, but you know, needed to have some musicianship to get it going. You know, hadn't had official musical training or anything.
Right.
So started working on that, and then different people were like, so Jonathan got plugged. Jonathan does write some great songs, and then I heard his song at the singing circle, and I remember talking to you out in the valley, like my kids were playing basketball, and we were talking about our first recording and getting together and doing stuff, and and it started out as like, well, we'll be the J-Dubs and all this stuff, but Jonathan heard this too, this idea of like making a color and sound journey of like, you start with red, you go to orange, you go to yellow, and you match the music for that color.
Yeah.
So that was always the original vision of like how to create a journey of like, but it's getting a pool of people together that like can create music was kind of the original thing. Last fall I started with like, oh, we could, time allotted, but we could get, and then Jonathan's songs were just, and we're like, we got something here, and he's got something here, and it's been really great.
Got something here. Yeah, I was like, you validated it for me, because I was just kind of like, what's going to happen with these songs? This guy Jed, I know he has a studio, and I hear good things about it, and went out there, and it was just like, whoa, this is good. Yeah.
And so that's how Prismatica was born, was through like.
Well, I was meditating one day, and I called the project out there because I also do like help. I have a buddy that has Northland Rosarian's greenhouse, his greenhouse and his business on the property. So it's kind of a cooperative. And then I have another friend that has a yurt business. So I got his prototype out there. So I had like in 2020, the COVID thing or whatever, I had like this cooperative thing going with like different people doing different things. So I called the whole project Prism Cooperative. But every time I would say that, I was like, it's too long and it could sound like prison.
Yeah, and in fact, when I introduced this, I called up the people at Hamilton Studio to set up this thing on June 1st, and they're like, I'm Jonathan Wisor, I'm calling on behalf of Prism Cooperative, and they're like, Prison Cooperative? And that's when I was like, there must be a change. And so, the idea was to change the Prism Cooperative stands as Jed's umbrella organization, but we needed a band name that was reflective of the Prism vision, with that unambiguously would not sound like prison in any way. And so Prismatica, it's pronounced slightly differently in a way that
so you don't say prison.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. So that's how Prismatica came about.
Even if it is mistaken for that word, it's kind of that is kind of the concept, though. You get the hues and the spectrums of different perspectives together, and it's like, you go back into light. It's like light gets refracted, and then there's a reverse osmosis. That's the idea of like different perspectives. And anyhow, it just, Jonathan's been so gracious with all his incredible songs that are coming through the pipeline of like, I appreciate your vision, and I want to share that, and so he's like, let's just keep with that. And I was like, we can be a different name or whatever, and then Prismatica popped out, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds so much better.
I mean, you're talking about me being gracious. Again, it's what happens here is I sent Jed a text recently. It was like, I provide the beams, you build them into dreams.
That's a great. I mean, I think every
works.
Partnership or collaboration, you need pieces of it to like. You can't do things by yourself. Like, and though I know the one thing like working with artists is like you have to be able to trust the person that you're also working with and be able to like not. In my relationships, it's always just like you got to just like be very like selfless in it too. Like I would never like my friend makes music, I help him make it, but like we're still like even though he's doing all the heavy lifting of the music making, he still couldn't do parts of it because I'm helping him push parts of that forward. And so like it is very much like it's a give and take, and when you can find someone that you can work with and trust and like collaborate with, there's not a better feeling. I feel like and everyone needs that, and like if you, and it definitely helps if you have like be able to record it, because that's the toughest part of this is like being able to record it and make it sound good, right?
Yes, and that's really where Jed I always get to a point where I know like this is as far as it's going to get with just me, and now it's time to share it with Jed. And it's always like, it's sort of like if you have a child and they go off to their own life, it's totally on a much smaller scale, of course, but it's like this thing you're giving it away. And it has to be a nurturing environment for me to be comfortable to do that.
I love that. I want to ask, like, so when you sent me your music, it ranged from folk pop, folk rock, new age pop. You even have like electronic dance.
That's like the newest thing for us, the electronic dance.
So, but all that music you sent me, that's all Prismatica.
Yes.
Okay. So like, and how like it's funny, as we were walking in, I was like talking about musical genres, and like how it's always hard to like say like what is this sound, like like we were talking about what's emo, like it's a lot of different things. Like how do you describe what your like music is, because it's a ton of different genres?
I mean I think we can divide it into two categories at this point, and it's such a bizarre, strange journey. So most of what we've done, with the exception of the two most recent songs that we have done collectively as Prismatica, is I would say folk pop is it's pop. The structures are very simple. It's like verse, chorus, verse, chorus. The chord progressions are relatively straightforward. Harmonies, simple melodies. The themes are the lyrics are kind of folk in theme, I would say. There's some spirituality there. There's some like social cohesion, social awareness kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's where the folk comes from. And just the simplicity of the song structure and the melodies and the harmonies, it makes it pop. Yeah. And so that's most of what we do. But just in the past couple months here, the two most recent songs that I have shared with Jed, so one thing you have to know about me is I've always loved to dance, and sort of the heart of my where I identify most with dance music is sort of like 90s electronic dance music. So like New Order, Depeche Mode, Erasure kinds of sounds. And the last two songs that came to me, when I started to play them, was messing around with the guitar, and I was like, that's not a guitar song. That more belongs on the keyboard. And I'm playing like these long, really expansive kind of chords and just long whole notes. And and at some point, I'm like playing these, and I start tapping my foot on the floor, and I'm like, oh, that's got a nice rhythm. And my floor is very thin. I got a basement downstairs, and so it's reverberating. I have like a propane fireplace with a metal face on it, and I'm pounding to the point that the propane fireplace is like shaking. I'm like, this is a dance song. This is I feel a dance song coming this time, you know? And I've learned to trust the song. I don't have an agenda. I don't come in with an agenda. The agenda just comes from the song. And so I'm like, this is going to be a dance song. And I walked into the studio one day when I was still incubating this, and sitting on Jed's couch is this vinyl, 12-inch vinyl, extended dance version of Erasure's song, one of my most favorite dance songs ever, A Little Respect. Give a little respect to me. It's sitting there, the vinyl.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Where did you find that Erasure extended on vinyl?
That's amazing.
And it was just sitting there on his couch, and he's like, what was your reaction? Remember what your reaction was? Because we hadn't done anything dance prior to this. We thought of this as a folk pop project.
Dude, like, Spokane, most people don't know who Erasure is. This is incredible.
Right. I'm like, this is A Little Respect. And that's when I knew that it was like, yes, this is going to be a dance song. And then I do remember when I called you on a Sunday evening at like 10, I had decided I got as far as I could with Let It Happen, the first of the two dance songs. And I'm like, Jed, we need to record this, man. And I'm like, it needs that booming bass. And you remember, I was like slamming I'm singing to him on the phone and slamming my hand on my nightstand. Like, this is a dance song. It's like, boom, on those downbeats, you got to have that booming bass. Totally. And we went out and we recorded it. And of course, like everything else we've done, even though it was a totally different genre, it was like Jed knew exactly how to nail it to the wall.
That's amazing.
And it's like, hey, I guess we did some dance music. And that was like, that one we finished maybe 3 weeks ago or 3 to 4 weeks ago.
It was right before going into Hamilton Studios, actually.
So,
and that that was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a really cool gig. How are we going to format this? And that's when, right before we went in there, you're like, oh, because I've been doing ecstatic dance DJing for a bit, and like, oh, we can have that be part of the thing. And it wasn't until the next day that it dawned on us that like, oh, all this like helping others record their stuff can be done for the last part of our show, which also tributes to the cooperative part of like, so it's like, okay, we can showcase these dance songs in amongst some other artists that we've been recording. And that gets us into like a much broader spectrum of hues to create music from. So that's where, there's this bridging from folk pop. We'll be playing really cool, like Big Barn Brewing, really cool, like that, the majority of your songs just, and I have like 3 or so songs that are like, songs
definitely
from
folky.
They're folky, and they're from a deep history of, they go way back, and I recently wrote that one about, my kids, and anyhow, we plugged those in there, but overall it's that, Jonathan's folk pop with a little of my mellow piano.
So that,
type
like
music.
when you see Prismatica, that's more of what you're gonna.
That's what we'll be out doing at, these. But sometimes there'll be these, like the Hamilton Studios thing, where like we can help showcase the ecstatic dance, the song circles, the drum circles, these groups of people that have musical talent, but it's that giving access to having like our drummer Paul has a lot of really cool Haitian tunes that we've started, that maybe we would, so we've got just such a diverse
and ecstatic
pool to
like,
pull from.
And that pulls from like this a lot of different genres.
Oh yeah, ecstatic dance is about like following like 5 waves of flow, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and then stillness. Those are the 5 themes that you move through, but that can be any genre. I mean, it just depends on the area and what they're used to for ecstatic dance. But here we're really like do all sorts of stuff and have fun with it.
Yeah. Who's like a band that's like be described as like ecstatic dance? They're like musical groups usually. Like I'm thinking of this is more like prog rock, like Tortoise. Like, but I don't know. Like, I always try to define stuff so people can understand it a little bit. Like
Portuguese. I mean, it's going to have a lot of world influences.
Oh, okay, more world. Okay.
Yeah, the ecstatic dance generally likes. I throw in a lot of progressive trance in my mixes because that's just who I am and what I like.
Yeah,
but I like to put plenty of world in there, and I keep putting more and more because as a DJ, you want to provide what people.
Because it sounds like you could add. I mean, like you could add indigenous, like the tribal.
You can do salsa, tango. I mean, you want world influences where you get to that different types of rhythms, polyrhythms. You get that really
interesting. So and it all kind of blends together.
It all blends together. Yeah,
interesting.
So you're not just like like for an hour. You get to you know.
And it's more of like an experience.
Yeah.
Than like
yeah, you start off kind of maybe doing yoga poses or whatever, and you end just kind of like laying down going, oh. And Jonathan came to our last one with our 2 songs, and we performed them, and we did some live stuff with it. And but yeah, there's a Spokane ecstatic dance community, and we're just moving to the Guardian, this big church over here thing.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like the Guardian service is the Spokane ecstatic dance, like at the Guardian
Sundays.
Church on
Yep.
Sundays.
Sundays
Wow.
at the Guardian Church on it's
So-
like Washington and Maxwell, is that right?
Yeah, so that's
yeah.
that's kind of maybe another, or yeah, that's another venue we're planning on playing at as part of the ecstatic dance thing. 'Cause It's
Gotcha.
a bigger new venue for Spokane ecstatic dance.
Yeah, I mean, it
community.
seems like I mean, this is such a different music community that I've even know about. Because, like, I feel like in Spokane, there's, you know, the ones that I think of the most are like, you know, what I spend most time in. But I mean, this seems like even it's very interesting.
It's a little more underground. I would
very
say.
underground, and I think that's what you're talking about. Like what is a typical venue for these shows? Like, because I think of Hamilton Studio, and I think of like their, I think mostly of their like gymnasium space. But like, is there other venues within Hamilton Studio? Is that like where do you perform this stuff at?
So, I mean, we are still relatively new. Again,
Yeah.
you know, having just started this game, for me personally, having just started it within the last 6 months. Happy Trails to Brews out on Indian Trail.
Okay.
Big Barn Brewing Company. Actually, we've got a show coming up at the Big Barn Brewing Company on May 11th, which will probably be before this is out. But then July 13th, we'll be doing Big Barn Brewing again. So I think we're still trying to figure out exactly where our scene is. But like definitely a priority for me is getting something going with the Chameleon and Zola. And so I hope you're listening. Marcellus at Zola. I hope you're listening to me. Jonas with Chameleon. I hope you're listening to me, because I'm going to be that dog that grabs your pant leg in its jaws and starts shaking until you book Prismatica. That's my perspective on those places, and them and the Hamilton. I hope this will be the first of an extended series of gigs at Hamilton. However much audiences can stand us, because I really like the space at Hamilton. You're at your level with. It's not even an audience. You're level with the community that you are singing to, and that's what I expect for us. It's going to be our community coming out and celebrating with each other, and celebrating each other with each other.
Yeah. So about once a month, we'll probably have a dance version and live set for ecstatic dance at the Guardian too, and that can be this community of people that. Like the last time we did, they're coming up and playing drums and just having fun and having a loose. So yeah, the combination of more official venues, and then just heck, I mean, we might do a little fun stuff out at Spangled.
That's right.
Like,
out at Jed's place, there's a lovely field out there where we can just have people hang out. And,
so it's kind of like creating also an option for people to get their music out there, and kind of like personal talent show, right?
Yeah.
Just like let everyone share the songs that have been coming through, and just keep building that through the years, get more of a pool of local music.
Yeah. So with the Prism Collective,
Prism Cooperative.
Sorry. Yeah.
Cooperative. Prism Cooperative.
PRIZM.
Is there there's other artists coming out of it? Like So who are they?
And we'll I think
you mentioned Amy Felt, FELDT.
I think we'll be getting her song ready for the Hamilton Studio One, and Glenn Garcia has a song that we started working on, and you were coming in on that on last Sunday that for his dad. Called Connections. That's what kind of started the whole thing. Like it's a song about being connected with people, and some are salty, some are sweet. Is how the lyrics go for some of that song. And there's just different like Paul Altanay has started tracking some cool songs that are almost like soul. Some of them are in some Haitian type of tunes. There's just different people that have been recording a little bit. Oh, my friend Debbie McManus, I recorded her back in 2012. She's been recording some more bajans, some devotional type of stuff. So yeah, just different artists doing different fun stuff.
How do people like connect with you? Like, is there what's the best way to do that? Like, I know like you're probably not like opening your studio to everyone, but like I'm sure like if the right person comes along, you would probably like is it showing up?
Yeah, if you type in Prism PRIZM cooperative, I mean, I'll come up as a music producer out in Spangle, but I still got to develop the website. You know how you got Munchkins, right? I'm just like so focused on these Munchkins. I was like, I still got to make a website. But
yeah, no, it's I mean, it's definitely there is definitely a need for more availability of like spaces to record in Spokane.
Nice.
And because like I know, a lot of artists who they have their own personal studios or they use local studios. The one that comes to mind the most offhand is Amplified Wax.
Oh, right.
And so Jimmy there at Amplified Wax, but like there's not a like a ton of like places like offhand that I'm like, reach out to this person. Like I'm mostly like, if you want to record music, I know a couple people, but there should be a more community of music producers in Spokane because there's a lot of people making music in Spokane.
Right.
And it's definitely, you want to find the right, like the like minds when you are recording and making music, like not somebody's fit. Like Jimmy's primarily works with in the rock genre, but he also records hip hop. He also records, other types of music, but like like if you're looking for a producer or a someone to help like mix your music, and there needs to be other options. So it's cool that you're out there doing that and you're open to that. So yeah, you should.
Yeah, and just like the band, it's been kind of just happening, and I sometimes tell Jonathan it's happening in spite of me because the universe or whatever you want to call it just kind of helps line things up when they're supposed to, and sometimes you can get in your own way, and in spite of all that,
it's like related to that. Go ahead. Sorry, finish.
But yeah, it's in its infancy, all this stuff, and so it's just like, well, just to help with a few projects, and then I still have to dial in like what it looks like for like sustainability and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's just like, well, just to get started and get my foot in the door, I'll help some people, and then I got to figure out how to make it sustainable.
It's not like a business yet. It's just like it's a project, but like
it's a project with that vision behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I should ask about like the music of like Prismatica, like listening to it. I know that where's it at now? Where can people find it? Where's it going? Like, where are all the places that people can listen to your music?
So right now it's just through us, like interpersonally, like on our Google Drive on our phones. But by the time this podcast is out, I think we're both pretty optimistic that we're going to be on Spotify.
Yeah.
And what are the other distribution channels you're thinking of?
Well, since I've got SoundCloud like unlimited account, I've just been temporarily posting a few things, and usually they're private, but there's some of them that will, maybe some live stuff. I got a Prism Cooperative SoundCloud thing that has, so we could find some of Jonathan's and maybe some, other ones that aren't quite yet ready for Spotify, but could be sampled there. And then, we have at least a couple, hopefully a 5-song EP. We have 2 ready to go to get distributed on Spotify, which by the time this is released, will be up there. So we'll have Prismatica up on Spotify and the other, the distribution thing, right? The Apple Music.
Should mention we are on Facebook and we have samples. We have YouTube videos.
Okay.
These songs. It's not actually videos of us. It's just a solid screen with some lovely artwork that Emble B, our vocalist violinist, has put together some lovely visuals. And so you can sample some of the music through the YouTube links that you can find on the Facebook.
Well, I should also say, like, when the music becomes available, it will be in the description of this podcast so that they can find it there.
Yeah, great.
And I think, it's definitely like, the thought process and the strategy behind releasing music is always something that I don't know much about because I release podcasts on a weekly basis. But I know that there's a lot of heart and thought that goes into that. So I mean, as soon as it's ready, it will be ready. And like because like I know that for a lot of artists that you don't want to just put stuff out to just have stuff out. But it's also like, I'm sure you want to get it out there so you can have people easily listen to it. We're in a strange world now, in that like, I feel like SoundCloud was definitely a great exploratory place to find music back in the mid-aughts. And now I think everything's kind of just going to distros and going to Spotify, and it's, Bandcamp used to be obviously a big thing, but like people don't spend much time on Bandcamp anymore. There's a lot of places, but like, yeah, getting your stuff on Spotify and, Apple Music and all the places is definitely the best. But like, I mean, I would say it's not always the answer. So
yeah, that's a good point. Bandcamp would be a good thing that we can get dialed. And so yeah, the SoundCloud, the Bandcamp, and the rest of them.
I know there's other artists who they've started releasing stuff on like Patreon type services.
Oh, that's really good.
And where you can have people, it's like Bandcamp in that you can purchase albums, you can gate music, so people like pay $1 to listen to a track or download a track. There's definitely different ways.
Well, it's really interesting. That old school stuff like pressing records is really big now too, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's very big old. Yeah, I will say if you want to press records, the person to work with in Spokane is Chris Martin.
Oh, nice.
With Corporate Records, and he has his own label, but he also he helps a lot of local bands press like vinyl.
Nice.
And so he doesn't press vinyl himself, but he works with someone who does it.
Gets it done, yeah.
And it's definitely like, I mean, no one. I know that vinyl is coming back, and it's definitely like a great way to get your music out there. And I've never bought vinyl, but I've watched people buy vinyl at like shows. I went to Tree Fort earlier this spring, and I mean, almost every artist there had some sort of like physical way of taking it home, and a lot of that was vinyl. And it's a good way to to get your music out there, especially if you want to hear it in that nice buttery sound on a warm buttery sound on a record. Yeah, I mean, so we got the show coming up at Hamilton Studio on June 1st. I know we've mentioned it multiple times in the show, but what exactly is it? And because it's live music, there's a ceremony. I don't know that word. There's a cacao. Yeah. There you go. And ecstatic dance. Like, explain what this event is all about at Hamilton Studio. Did we explain it?
Do we want to share the really weird, bizarre, mystical stuff? No, I'm joking. You kind of start sounding.
We'll scare people away.
Yeah, we'll be doing. No.
Yeah. Let us all know what is it about?
Well, so we originally, again, we started off with all these folk pop tunes, and we got this quartet together. Yeah. Again, it's guitar. I'm on guitar and vocals. Jed's on synth piano and vocals. Embleby is on violin and vocals, and Paul is on percussion. And so we built up to like a 1 hour set.
Yeah.
And a 1 hour set is great, but if you want to make an evening of it, you need more than a 1 hour set.
Yeah.
And then right as we were beginning our sort of discussions and negotiations with Hamilton Studio is when all of a sudden I had these 2 dance songs come to me. And I had been an enthusiast for ecstatic dance and had pitched the idea to Jed about having an ecstatic dance set. And I sensed maybe he wasn't quite ready for that, like something seemed like it was missing. But I think once we had these new dance songs and the dance songs from like Amy that you took an interest in, it was like, okay, we need to have an ecstatic set now because we need to have an outlet for this other direction in our music.
Totally.
So now we're going to have, let's turn it into a 2 hour show where the first one is just the quartet up there with the mics and, simple and straightforward. And then we bring in Jed's setup for ecstatic dance, and we have a second hour of ecstatic dance. And then we're kind of like, well, again, we want this to be a community event, and we're going to have potentially other singers from the community be involved in the ecstatic ecstatic
showcase
part. Let's
talent.
also,
Mhm.
what else goes on in our community? And so there's something that some of our friends like to do called a cacao ceremony. I haven't done it myself, and so I'm just describing to you how it's been described to me. But so cacao is a bean that grows in South America, which is the bean from which chocolate is dried.
Okay,
You take the beans, you dry them, you turn them into powder, and then that's processed into the cocoa that ultimately
Right.
goes into chocolate. Well, if you just take the powder, apparently it's got a very different taste from cocoa or chocolate. And it also has certain very mild, apparently, mood enhancing
Okay.
effects.
And medicinal,
And so,
Yeah,
and so in South
properties.
America, it's apparently there's sort of like a sort of a medicinal ceremony with the cacao powder. And some of our friends have learned how to do that and have a good steady supply of cacao. And so they're going to bring that out for whoever's interested. So that's going to happen. I guess we haven't sort of finalized it, but I mean, my thinking was that while we are shifting the set, taking the instruments away and just making sure that you're all set up for the ecstatic set, while that's going on, the cacao ceremony can be going on in the other part of the room. So it's just a community coming together and making the most of 2 hours with some different experiences along the way.
Totally. And you can buy tickets through what's Eventbrite?
Eventbrite, yeah. And so let's see. Again, if you go to our Facebook page, you will find a link to Eventbrite. And I'm pretty sure if you do a search for like Prismatica Hamilton or Prismatica Spokane, something like this, you're going to get all events, and Eventbrite will both show up as links that you just click into, and you'll get to the ticket site with all the details of the location, time, etc.
And then and of course, find it in the description of this podcast too. Well, this has been very like educational, and I'm very curious about all that you're doing. I definitely want to try to get up on the July event and see that at Big Barn. I'm good friends with the owners there, and I love taking my kids up there to like hang out. It's a good place to have some beer and be able to listen to live music. And I'm sure you'll be around more as the year progresses. So thank you so much for taking your time to be on Spokecast and talking to me. And I'm the more I talk with people in Spokane about the music that they're making, the more I'm hopeful, and that there's a community for anyone here in Spokane, whether it's dance, folk, hip hop, country, rock, metal, you name it. Like everyone needs to have their space, and it's cool that you're creating a space for this style of music. It's multiple styles of music. It's really cool. But before we leave, I always got to ask the one final question, and that is why Spokane? And Jonathan, I'll have you start.
Okay, why Spokane? Spokane for me it's the sweet spot for culture and nature. I need both in my life.
Totally.
And Spokane is just the perfect sweet spot because you can be out in nature. You go 20 minutes in like any direction and you're out, and it's peace and quiet and birds and fish and beauty. And then at the same time, when I needed to connect, spiritually, emotionally, and then as it turned out, musically, when I needed to connect, everything was here for me.
Yeah.
So it's the sweet spot.
Jed, how about you?
Yeah. I'm gonna borrow this.
Yeah.
Spokane, this is just coming through, is means children of the sun.
Yes.
And you need that sun to create the colors and the hues that have that, so that feels like a really cool realization I'm kind of having in real time here. And then also like honoring the spirit of those that that name comes from.
For sure.
The native Manitou is another word that means a supernatural force that pervades nature.
Yeah, I know that. That's awesome. That's so cool to know.
So the
I knew the Salish word that Spokane meant, but that's cool. I did not know that.
So there's some, like, to what you're saying. There's some dreams being created from the momentum of what has been here before.
Yeah.
But that's asking to be reborn in a new way, an honoring of that that sacredness to the land.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's kind of what we love around here is the nature.
Yeah. Well, I will say that it's going to be past by the time this podcast comes out, but I think a lot of what Expo, the celebration of the 50th anniversary, that's a lot of, there's a lot of like music that will be celebrated from the indigenous, people of the lands around Spokane. And that's something that I feel like, I think is very unique about Spokane is we named our city Spokane. I didn't even know Manitou was a Salish word. Like I love that the people who created Spokane had the foresight to think about that, to honor that. And I think music is a great way to honor that as well. And it's cool that that's so true. Children of the Sun. It is very you need the sun to create a prism. That's very cool. So thank you, Jed. Thank you, Jonathan. This has been a treat.
Very welcome.
Thank you all for listening. Until next time, peace.
Some people they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them say they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that. Hold up. Without a day, hey, somebody better tell Ellen that I'm on the way. Somebody tell Charlamagne, hey, I'm on the way. There ain't a stage in this world that I couldn't play. Coachella with a full live band would make sense. DJ sets